Welcome to the Remarkable Dentist Podcast with me, Fred Joyal, where I interview amazing dental practice owners digging into their successes and failures, their insights and hindsights, getting their views on where dentistry is going, and discovering what it took for them to become remarkable. Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable Dentist Podcast. I'm Fred Joyal, and I'm here today with Dr. Robert Martino, who has 7 practices that he owns in Bridgeport, Virginia. Welcome to the show, Bobby.
Thank you. And just one correction. And the only reason why this is one of those things where you have to live here. It's West Virginia. It's West by God, Virginia.
I say Virginia.
You did, but we're used to it, right? You know what I mean? It's part of who we are. It's our identity. So
right. Is it actually a state? Is it incorporated in everything?
It is actually a state since, what is it? 18 something, right? So it is, but that's okay. That's who we are. We kind of like that. We kind of like not being a state. The best is, how close are you to the beach? I'm like, there is no beach in West Virginia. So,
it's west.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Closer to the Mississippi, probably.
That's right.
So, but anyway, you've done all sorts of things that we're going to get into. You have dental practices. You have managed a bunch of practices beyond that. And you've also been involved in the creation and launch and distribution of an amazing product called Duracare. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna dive into all of that. But I want to hear how you got started in dentistry. What was the origin story of superhero Bobby Martino?
Well, I dated a girl in high school whose dad was a dentist. And so I would go over to the house, and at the end of the day, he'd come home and he was done. He sat around, watched TV, go cut the grass. Unlike the other people in my family, a lot of times they had to work, when they were home or, so I thought, and plus he was his own boss, Wow. So I really liked that. And because my dad worked for the VA, and it was very political. And, so I thought, I like that. I really like that. And so I just made up my mind. That's what I'm going to go to dental school. Had no idea what it was like to be a dentist. Okay. So when I got into dental school and they start talking about this stuff called amalgam, and I'm like, what is this amalgam stuff they keep talking about? Had no idea. Didn't go visit an office. Went in completely blind just on that. Hey, I think this is going to be a good life, so that's kind of started.
That's fascinating. My dad he got home and went to his second job, and so life was work. And then when he had a chance, he would read a book and smoke a pack of cigarettes, and that made me want to be an entrepreneur too. It was like, wow, I do not want to be constantly beholden to someone.
Exactly. So that's what attracted me to dentistry. You're your own boss, and I thought this is great. And when I was a dentist, that kind of was my life. I would work, and I'd work on the practice some, but I had enough time. It's when we went to multiple practices is when my life got a little bit more complicated, and
you can't just go home and cut the grass.
No. So what happens is, and I get this. So I've had multiple practices for 25 years, and I get this question all the time is, people say, should I have multiple practices? Should I not have multiple practices? And I always ask them the question, why do you want multiple practices? And if the first thing out of their mouth is because I want more free time, I say, this is not for you. This is not about having more free time, right? This is, I think when I was a dentist, I worked like 27 hours a week. I sometimes work 27 hours a day now, so it's, but I love what I do. That's, I liked dentistry. All of us dentists think we're pretty good at it. You know what I mean? And I love doing cosmetics and everything like this. But there were days that I hated the mesial buckle of 19 not getting numb, and, a crown not fitting, while they're going on vacation. So I love what I do now. The Monday and Saturday have no difference to me. You know what I mean? I love what I do.
Yeah. And that's the goal. And that's really not for everybody. And it's important I think for anybody in anything, but definitely in dentistry, it's like, you got to find your level that works for you. And even in terms of production, I mean, if producing $900,000 a year gives you a great life, you don't need to produce $1.5 million. You don't need to add 2 associates and things like that. Or you could be a different kind of person that constantly likes teaching and growing people. You need 2 or 3 associates, and you need to probably practice 1 or 2 days a week, and the rest of the time you're growing people. So, and some of us we can't stop growing. We got like 10 practices. Why won't I get 50? I can see my way all the way clear to that. And it's, but to do that, of course, you need people. You can't do it yourself. It's that, the term that's coming out all the time now, which is really brilliant and succinct, is who, not how, right? Yep. There's all sorts of stuff you want to do, and you don't just have to figure out how to do it. You have to figure out who's going to do it, because it can't be you.
Can't be.
And so you found some great partners along the way, I'm sure, and great practitioners.
And I have a great management team, and in all my companies, I have great people. I don't have to do everything. I have to oversee them. And it's the key. I think one of my strengths is finding good people and then letting them go, so, and getting out of their way and trying not to micromanage every little thing. And so trusting in these people, whether it's in Duracare or the dental offices, just let them grow. They're going to make mistakes. And the one thing for dentists that have multiple practices that they can't get away from is they hire an associate and they're like, they're never going to be as good as me. And I like, yes, they will. They will never be as good as you. I promise you that. They're never going to be as good as you, because you have a unique skill, and they're never going, but you have to be okay with that, and hopefully you train them enough that eventually they get better than you, but they're never going to be you. And so I think so many dentists get frustrated with that, is like you said, I'm producing just myself $1 million and he can only do 500,000. Well, maybe that's all he can do, or he or she can do. And I think when you're trying to, you have to understand, I have some dentists that just kill it in production. And I mean, as busy as any dentist that I know, and some that are just going along. We have places in our practices for all those. And that's because you're never in West Virginia. It's not the Mecca of dentistry. We don't have like thousands of dentists coming in here. But the ones that we have are really good. And we also have a doctor development program. You can't just hire someone out of school and set them in the room and go, I hope they do well. No, you have to have a training program internally. And we do. We have trainers. I have great trainers. I think that's the key. That, you said it, having great people. You cannot do all this by yourself. And you have to have a great management team.
Now, how do you think you developed this? 2 things I'm very curious about. You grew comfortable delegating. and it probably ties together. And you're very good at finding great people. How did you develop that?
Well, like everything else in my life, I made a hell of a lot of errors. You make mistakes, and you learn from them. I think I'm a very good decision maker. I never said I make good decisions.
Right.
I'm a very good decision maker.
Being decisive.
Yes. I make them. I make a ton of mistakes, but I learn from them, and I don't beat myself up over it. So the same thing happened with people. When you find the right one, you go, okay, this is the great one. You train them, you give them the resources, and then at some time you give them a little bit, and then at some point you can go, wow, now they can go. And I think that's, but you have to trust people. You've heard that a million times. What my greatest asset is? It's my people. And you know what my greatest challenge is? My people. So I went from managing mouths to managing people. Managing people's 10 times harder than managing mouths. But it's also 10 times more rewarding for me. So it is a skill that you have to develop, just like leadership. You're not born to be a leader, it's a skill that you develop.
And you learn to let people make those mistakes, to bear that they're not going to do it as well as you.
That's right. Until
they do it. My company, with 800 dentists, it was full of people who did every single job better than I would.
Yeah. That's what you would hope for. That is exactly what you're. Now, some people have this ego that can't allow that. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You know what I mean? I think I'm the smartest person in the room when I have a lot of people in the room that are smarter than me. That's when because we give them the ability. There's a famous quote from I think it's Ken Blanchard is all of us are smarter than one of us, and I believe that.
Oh yeah.
I never make a single decision in any of my companies. Never is it just me. It's always we, and that I think that's really important for not only for my growth of being able to let stuff go, but for their growth too.
Yeah. Now that's really powerful, Bobby, because it is ego, and it is like, well, it's an autocracy, right? I'm the final decision maker here. And sometimes you are the decision maker, but you're never going without, I want everybody's input. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm 40 degrees off, or 10 degrees, or 180. Mm-hmm. Or my timeline is, I was the master of the compressed timeline. I took everything took 2 weeks in my mind. It didn't matter what it was.
Yeah, that's right. I want everything yesterday, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Braxton, yeah. But is it done yet? No, we haven't left the room yet, Fred. We're still taking notes on what you want. But then you'd have people go, my brother in my business was my, he would execute, and he would come to me and go, this is going to take a little more time, right? And then the CFO would go, budget wise,
it's going to cost a little bit more
a month to throw another 200 at something, like, oh, fine, okay, we'll do it in June rather than May.
Yeah.
But but the thing is that my partner and I learned is there were once the decision made, there was no recriminations, right? It was like,
there you go.
Nobody. It was like, oh, hey, this was your idea.
Yeah. I told you so.
Failed,
yeah, I told you so. There's no I told you so's. You're not allowed.
Yeah, because it's so unproductive. It's like everybody gave. If you didn't give your strong opinion ahead of time, that's on you.
That's
next time. Step up.
We always say you didn't argue hard enough.
I thought
another thing that I think is unique with me that I don't think a lot of people and my staff will tell you this, and that I'm overboard. I love meetings. I love them. That's my creation. That's where I like to create. You know what I mean? I know I say, hey, we're going to meet, today at 2. And I could probably get the eye roll behind my back. You know what I mean? Can you let us, I hear that. Can you let us at least go out and do it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Before we keep meeting on it. I do. I love meetings because that's where we create and that's where, and we problem solve. So that's what I love.
If they're productive, there's nothing wrong with the meeting. Right. It's most people that they don't leave with an action plan. They don't walk in with an agenda. And again, the people aren't speaking up who need to speak up. Right. They're just just thinking about something else. We would routinely in my business have offsites so that people couldn't get at us for the day. And it was like, okay, by the, as you get towards the end of the day, it's like, okay, where are we going? Okay. Yeah. We've talked about it. We've talked all around it, back and forth. Let's get an action plan. So
offsites are great. Awesome.
Can't beat them because you got to really, we had to get to the point where it's like no phones. It's phones at lunch.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I don't want you glancing down at your phone because I'll put it in a glass of water, Yeah,
that's right.
What surprised you about dentistry when you got into it?
I think what surprised me was dental school. So when I went to, again, you're coming in, I don't know anything about the outside dental world. And when I'm coming into dental school, we're doing all these crazy things like waxing up in the mouth, doing gold foils, all this kind of stuff when I didn't know there were other things out there, Okay. So I am thinking, and I got this entrepreneur mind in dental school. I'm like, my God, I'm going to change dentistry, because there's got to be better ways than this. And then I went to see Gordon Christensen. It was like my senior year. And it was like this light bulb went on. I'm like, oh, thank you. Because I was like, I am going to struggle because I cannot stand some of the stuff that we're doing. And then he changed. And I actually later on in life has told him this. And I said, you changed my life. That one class that I had in Charleston, West Virginia, I can remember it. And it just I knew there were better things to do. And so I think that I thought, and I don't know how dental school is today. I'm sure it's advanced, but to me, when I was in dental school and I graduated in 1990, we were 10 years behind what I thought, the private practice was. And thank God I saw Gordon Christensen because that kind of changed what I got. And then right out of dental school, I had a great partner. I was an associate. He sent me to Tony Robbins at Fortune Management. At the time, it was just forming, and so. I took my boards one day. The next day I flew down to Atlanta and I'm here with all these great dentists and all this great knowledge. So the great thing about me is I didn't really learn it the bad way. From day one, I was in Fortune and all this stuff came at me. And I had all these models to model against. And I'm sitting there, Tony Robbins. Now, as you know, with Tony Robbins, we start at 8 o'clock in the morning. We get done at 10 o'clock at night and have homework for the next day, Right. But it was just like, wow, so that really made an impact on me that from day one, in my opinion, I was learning it the right way.
Yeah, you didn't, as we know, so many of these dentists who come to Fortune Management, they're 15 years into their problems, sometimes 20 into their problems, and they are deeply ingrained, and it's like they got to unlearn 75% of what they're doing. Yeah. So you were blessed to just walk right into that. Like you say, no bad habits, you were a blank slate. Tell me how to do it right.
Tell me how to do it. And to this day, we still use the exact communications the contributions and everything that we learned that Tony Robbins came up with, like at that event. I scheduled the way I learned there. Everything was from that day. And that's part of our success.
And so when did you go from ownership? You went from associate to ownership. So tell us about, and then when did you decide it was going to be more than one practice?
So I had one practice, and I was associate with Dr. Kenny Wilson. And so we had a practice that was too busy for one, but not quite enough for two. So we had a doctor come up to us at a Christmas party and says, I'm trying to kill my practice and it won't die. I want to retire. He said, will you take it over? And it was about 20 miles away. And it was in Buchanan, West Virginia. And so I said, well, Kenny really said, because he was the owner at the time, he said, yeah, let's do it. And he sent me, but what he did was very intelligent. He didn't send me up there and hire a whole new team. He took some of his key members from his current team, said, you're going to go up there. And so we built the same culture that we had at the other one up there. And it became a very, very successful practice. And then we said, let's try another one. So we didn't have this great plan of, we want 5 practices or we want 7 practices or whatever. It just happened. And why we have 7 right now and not 10 and 12. West Virginia is kind of spread out. So in the whole state, we have 1.8 million. So you have to be spread out. We're spread out enough for us that we're comfortable enough to go and be able to support it. Like I can bring a doctor from here to here or a hygienist. When you get too spread out, I can't do that. And I don't want to do that, so at the current, so that's kind of where we're at with that. So it was no master plan. That's the biggest thing. It just happened. And the other advice that I have for someone that wants to do this is, I think this M&A, is great, but I think you have to know why you're doing it. Number one, why are you doing it? Like I said, have more free time's not it. But 2, you have to be successful in your core practice. I see a lot of people that have 6, 7, 14 practices. None of them are great. They have 14 practices.
There's a couple of real dogs in the mix. Yeah.
Right. And I'm thinking, why did you go out? Like if I have a dog here, like you say, don't go out and get another dog. You know what I mean? Let's work on this. So I always say, before you go out and go buy another practice, is yours now successful? Is yours now at the max that it can be? Because that's what you're going to be duplicating. Is your culture where it should be? That is what you're going to be duplicating. You're not going to go, all the problems that you have here, you're going to duplicate here. Successes too, but you better have limited amount of problems, because guess what? In that satellite practice, you're not always going to be there. And those problems are really going to get bigger. And so you have to make sure your core practice is where it needs to be before you go out and do those other ones.
Well, yeah, it's like you got a bad marriage, so you have a kid to try to fix it.
Yeah, that's right. That's a perfect analogy. That's true. Still going to have a bad marriage.
Yeah. So then it just happened. And so these practices are all what you would call drivable distance from each other.
Yeah, they're all about 15, 20 minutes from each other. From the top one, we're north central West Virginia. From the top one to the most southern one, it's probably an hour and a half drive. Yeah. So what we have is we have global support people and compliance people. So I have a couple girls that go around to each of the offices to make sure everyone's doing things the way we should be. But they also help train new people. And they also sometimes, you just have someone at the front desk is out, or an assistant. So these girls are trained to do all the jobs. So during the week, they're in one of those offices, either training, compliance, or supporting the team when they're shorthanded. And that works for us because they're all drivable distances.
Right. That's the advantage of having that many practices, is you can have what other businesses we would call floaters.
Yeah.
Right. That's like, it's somebody's on maternity leave.
Right.
Somebody's, kid was in a car accident and they can't come to work that day. And it's like,
right.
You got somebody there. You don't go, a solo practitioner goes, I don't know what to do.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
We got to cover, we all have to cover the front desk. We don't have anybody. So it's like, We're going to answer the phones while we're treating people or whatever, or I don't have an assistant. So I'm working without, or I'm trying to get my hygienist to assist. She's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So, so it makes the model work really well. And you sort of leveled off. You went, now because you had these management services sort of centralized in some way, you started to manage a few other practices, didn't you?
Right. And the biggest thing that we did, we took over some in Tennessee. And we had a really success story there. They had 5 practices. They were struggling along. Their recall was like 17%. And, so, we went in there and put all the things that we've learned from Fortune and that worked in my practices. And, in about 4 years, we doubled it. And the owner eventually sold at a very nice price. He was very happy with it, and we were very happy for them. And so we have opportunities like that, and because we're not a consultant, or anything like that. We actually manage the practice. We don't advertise this. It's all word of mouth. It's one of those things where someone comes to us, and what usually happens is someone will say, "Hey, will you help these people out?" And we help them for maybe 6 or 7 months. And then they go, "Will you just take it over for us?" And then we go, "Maybe." And we're really picky. We're really picky of, I've been to Buffalo and looked at some practices up there, and they just didn't feel right for us to manage. So we're really picky at what we do. We do a lot of things here, and what we do, I want to say we do well. So you got to watch that you don't water that out too much, and because you have to hire more people. You can't just do it. You can't just keep throwing stuff on your current staff, so.
Yeah. I mean, that's becomes a real problem. There's, like, any good business has a proper pace that it grows in. And the number one problem is that you don't get people fast enough. You don't, they don't ripen instantly, and then, or even at the same speed. I'm sure you have some people who, when you started, you thought, I don't know if they have any potential, and they're 5 years later, they're just a superstar, right? Like they just deliver day in and day out. And we had the same thing with operators at 1-800-Dentist. We didn't have a set time where it's like, you have to be on the phone handling calls effectively by this date. We knew it was, some people 3 days in, they were bangers. They were just fantastic. And other people 3-4 weeks, and then all of a sudden they got lift, right? And then they could do it all day long, and they would be high converters. People loved them. They got steady, constant reviews. So we learned not to put a time clock on that ripening process, because you'll miss some real gems. People are really, it's that's the job. I saw this in Harvard Business Review, where the top CEOs were talking about, and they said 50% of their job is recruitment at that point.
Wow.
Because it's all about at the 2 or 3 levels under them, finding the best possible people, growing them. And that's what you became good at. Now you have what we refer to in the general business world as entrepreneur's disease. And so you get sucked into completely irrelevant side businesses like airplane repair, right?
Yeah. So my office is in a hangar. If we walked out those doors, we would see a bunch of planes out there in a big 10,000 square foot hangar. And so what happens is I know a little bit about business, and some people know that. And so they asked me things. And so I had a tennis partner. We were doubles partners. He was really good. And again, always pick people better than you, right? And so but he was having to move away for his job. He said, or we could start this business. He says, I know everything about airplanes. He said, but I know nothing about business. And I said, well, I know nothing about airplanes. I know a little bit about business. And so we started this about 12 years ago. And we do our main customers are like NetJets and Delta private jets. So when one of their planes broke somewhere, usually it's like the Bahamas or somewhere like that, we send our crew down to fix them. So when we walked into NetJets, there was 473 vendors ahead of us. Now, today, I'm very proud to say, and it's all my guys' work, is we're the number one guy that they call if they have an engine problem. And so I'm very excited about that. But it was all about what I've learned in dentistry. It's about customer service. It's about communication. That we have the reputation in the airline industry of being the best communicators out there. And that all comes from what I've learned at Fortune and with Tony Robbins, and that they never have to worry about us. We always keep them informed where they're at. And then I kind of took what I learned from enrollment when we went up there to NetJets and said, what do you really need? They're like, we got everything covered. I said, but what would you, if you wanted a vendor, what if you could make one, what would you want? They said, well, we want one that works on the airframes, works on the engines, works on the avionics, and can run taxi. Because usually we got to call 2 or 3 teams. I said, okay. So we went back, and that's what we created. Guys that know how to do all that. So now they can just call us instead of having to call 2 or 3 teams. And so we've grown it, and we have probably about 25 A&P guys, and we have a satellite in Atlanta and a satellite in Houston now. So
now, when you're using this enrollment technique, do you occasionally slip and say, what would be your ideal smile?
Yes, that's right. What's most important to you, to your teeth? Sometimes that gets out, you know what I mean? So it does, so yeah, so that does happen. But it's funny because it's the techniques that I've learned there and that we use all the time in our other businesses, so it, once you learn it, it can be done in different things.
Yeah. Remarkable customer service, which includes that, empathy, that communication, that asking, as our friend Bernie talks about, asking powerful questions, that elicit, that let them talk about, how are you going to know what to give them if you don't find out what really matters to them? Right, if you start imposing what matters to you or what you're trying to sell,
yes,
they may not hear it all. But this little thing that you offer, you wait a minute, you handle the whole taxiing thing? Yeah, because that's a constant problem for us. And you go like, that's the easiest thing we do.
Yeah.
But by the way,
and they've had $20 million planes, I mean, just be damaged, because someone doesn't know how to do it. You know what I mean? So it's a big deal to them, but you're right. You had to ask that question. You had, just like you have to ask that patient, what do you really want? What do you really want in here? You know what I mean? And then give them what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, because they may not, a beautiful smile may mean nothing to them. They just
Exactly.
want all their teeth, right?
That's right. They want to eat, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, they got parents with dentures and they go, I don't want to be that. I don't
That's
care
right.
about beautiful.
That's right.
I don't ever want dentures. What do I have to do so that never happens to me?
And
Great.
most people want a lot of the things, but there's one thing that drives them, right? And that's what you've got to talk to them about.
Yeah, because it all hinges on that greatest need.
Right.
And if you don't find that, if that's not understanding them, and that's, as you say, that's transferred to every business you've gone to, because
exactly.
it's selling to human beings. What you have to find out what the deepest need is, the deepest fear, the deepest pain point that will motivate them to accept your services. And so it crosses over completely. Now, there's another whole business that you get into. You got into the mouthwash business, didn't you?
Yes. Got into the mouthwash business. Kind of got roped into that one.
Do you fly planes at all?
I don't. I fly on them. I don't fly them, Mo. But
Okay.
So the mouthwash, and I do use mouthwash. So there, that's right. That's right. The mouthwash business happened in, Fortune has another level to go to called the Platinum Circle. And I was in the initial part of that when was a founder of it, I guess. And when we started, so it's kind of like you got these really great practices, and they all get together from all over the country and they share stuff. And it's just, to me, I love it, And of course, Fortune's even bumped it up again to Fortune 50. But at the Platinum Circle, it was like these guys that, I would go, I would go, whether we learned anything or not, because they're a great bunch of guys, like-minded thinking. And so one of our doctors there hated chlorhexidine, like all of us. We hate chlorhexidine. He said, I have an idea about to create a product that could replace chlorhexidine. And we said, okay, tell us. And so he told us about it. A couple of the dentists there said, hey, we think that's a great idea. We started raising money. We hired a CEO to develop it. And the CEO was great at developing the product. We have a absolutely great product, does great things. The CEO just didn't know the dental market. So at certain point, we had to replace him. Well, I did it until we had to replace him. And that was 8 years ago. I think we're still trying to hire a CEO. So that happens to be me now. And again, I built a great team that do the same things that we were talking about, finding out what offices need and how Oracare, because Oracare does so many things, its active ingredient kills bacteria, viruses, and fungi, breaks up.
Talk a little bit. We both know how it works, but let's talk about like what, break down how the product works and what it creates. Because I think people are going, so why is Oracare different?
Yeah. Okay. So it's in 2 bottles. Okay. And it has to be mixed every time. And that mixture, one's a sodium chloride and one's an acid. When those 2 meet, they give off this gas. It's called activated chlorine dioxide. It's the only way chlorine dioxide is out there. It's a gas. So this gas permeates everything, and this gas kills bacteria, viruses, fungus. It breaks up biofilm, eliminates volatile sulfur compounds. So when you're talking about those things in the mouth, you can solve a lot of challenges. Now, this activated chlorine dioxide is used throughout the world in other things to clean up hotels after Legionnaire's disease, to clean up after hurricanes. It's great for smells. If a car catches on fire or gets flooded and they still want to salvage it, they put chlorine dioxide in it. Guess what they clean buildings with now with when they have COVID? Chlorine dioxide, you know what I mean? So it's a great bacteria, it's an oxidizer and virus killer. And so what we've done is we've harnessed that power of chlorine dioxide that's been around since the 1800s and used it now in a mouthwash. And so we get great results. I mean, for perio, for implants, post implants, and then of course for COVID, we have 2 studies that show that it kills COVID. And so now we've always preached pre-rinsing. Since I started this company, that was our big thing. We should always pre-rinse every patient. And I go to conventions and everything. I ask, what do you pre-rinse with? And they go, well, we don't really pre-rinse, and we know we should. Guess what? After this pandemic, everyone is pre-rinsing. And the biggest thing is I don't want them to stop. Because whether we have a vaccination or not, there's still bacteria in that person's mouth. There's still viruses in that mouth that as soon as you put a handpiece on, goes all over the room. Let's kill that stuff before that happens.
Yeah, it just atomizes in a cloud around the person.
Yes.
Around you, I should say.
Yes, and other patients and everything. So let's do the best we can. So I think we should always pre-rinse. And I think Oracare is the best because it kills viruses and bacteria and fungi too. And so we've gotten great results, and it's growing, and of course the pandemic has really pushed us into another level.
Well, and because I'm not a dentist, I was recommending that people snort it as well during COVID.
That's right. You can do it. I can't say that, but you know what I mean? But
I was thinking about doing it myself because it's going to clear.
Well, it's so funny because I've had so many dentists reach out to me, and this is the truth. I can't endorse this because there's no study on it or anything, but they're like, I never got COVID. And I said, wow, how'd you do it? They said, we'd set it there because you need to let it set for 30 seconds. They said, I'd sniff it because it's a gas. And I said, that's true. And they said that, and they said, and I said, okay. I said, I'm really talking about pre-rinsing to prevent it from going for somebody else. But I said, look, if it's working for you, it's working for you. But I said, I just don't have a study to say that that's true, so.
Well, and
theory is good. Yeah.
I used it, twice a day all through COVID. And, I was safe in my behavior as well. But yeah, I think it was good. And there's actually, you have a different formula for post-surgical, like post-implant. Right?
Yes. With the post-surgical, we have aloe vera in it, but we also have a gel that the doctor puts on right after the implant. Like you do the implant, you put it right on after the implant, and then you give them the bottles to go home with. Now, here's the thing. It's 3 times stronger than the bottles. So they're instantly getting, a clean area right after you did the surgery. But I will tell you, it's not just the gel. You have to do it daily. Think about what we're doing here. We're doing implants on people, and there's a reason why we're doing it. The reason why we're doing an implant is because they didn't take care of their teeth before, right? So now we put these very expensive implants in it, and then we let them go and go, hope it does great. And when they fail because they have poor home care, guess who they blame? They blame the dentist. I paid $5,000 for this, and it still failed. Well, it's because look, implants still get gum disease. Implants still get gingivitis. You see, we have to do, so that's what Oracare does. It prevents those things around implants. And we think like the first month or 2 is very important. And that's what it's called, reassure, basically it gives you some insurance on that implant will, not fail.
Well, I mean, that's a great product. And so the gel has a way of activating too as it goes on.
Yes, it's in 2 tubes. And when they push it through, it activates it. We let them leave it on for 3 minutes. And like I said, it just kills all the bacteria, viruses, so that patient leaves that day with a very clean surgical site, and a surgical site that's already starting to heal. And then they go to the rinse, and they do that for a month and a half, and we've just seen great results. We've got a lot of pictures and a lot of great so. And let me tell you how the gel started. The gel started, like, we've always had Oracare. My partner now lives in Texas, and his wife had to go get some implants done, and she went to a Dr. David Little, who's a great implantologist, speaks all over the world about implants and teaches general dentists implants. Well, he did implants on her, and she came in and he said, "Can you tell me what you're doing to your gums?" He says, "They're the best I've ever seen post surgery." She said, "I'm using this product called Oracare." He said, "I've never heard of it before." He said, "I got to find it." So he's using it on all his patients. And he calls me up and he says, "Listen," he says, "I love this stuff, but I would like to have something like right after surgery." And I said, "We happen to be working on that." So we worked with him, and that's kind of how it formed, because he saw these great results, but he wanted something in his hands to be able to do the day right after surgery. So.
Yeah, well, that's so important. That's the time you want to know that you're, as you're done closing up that patient, that it is bacteria and
right.
viral free, because the soft tissue is going to jump right in if it doesn't have to kill anything, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So. Really exciting stuff. Well, this has been an amazing career for you. Do you have a what's next, or are you just going to keep on doing what you're doing? Is there any secret mission that's popped up?
No, and I know this. Our biggest passion right now is giving back, and with Freedom Day Freedom Day started in my offices, but blew up because of Fortune, and the same, just like Oracare started in Platinum Circle, so did Freedom Day. So I think that's really passionate for us. And we just started something called First Lunch, which is we now give buy lunches during First Responders Week for our first responders. We just actually happened this week for us. We just delivered 1,000 lunches to our local police, firemen, and EMT. So I think when you have success, giving back, it's not only required, but it makes things so much more fun. And so I think those things are what we're really trying to grow nationally.
Well, I'm going to put in the show notes, I'm going to put information on how you listeners can find out about Freedom Day. And of course, Oracare is not sold retail. It is sold. No, it's only
to dentists. As long as they keep me CEO, it will only be to dentists.
Well, you're just the 8-year interim CEO.
That's exactly right. That's right. Any moment I might get the call. You never know.
So, So, Bobby, thank you. This is great information for everybody, and I always look forward to spending time with you and hearing what's next for you. But yeah, Freedom Day is a wonderful way to give back to vets. People are trying to do this around the country, and it's just a wonderful thing. We got a lot of guys out there, and men and women. When I say guys, because they're in our armed forces, and they're very dedicated people, and they don't necessarily get all of the services that they should when they come home. I know everybody in the Platinum Circle participates in this, and a lot of Fortune management clients do this, but any dentist can participate.
Right. And we had the highest year before the pandemic, we had 1,000 dental offices across the country doing it. We did like $6 million worth of free dentistry for them. So, that things like that, how you have a little idea and it blows up like that. Those are the things that get you going. As an entrepreneur, maybe we're not making any money off of it, but that's still an idea that we had in one of those meetings that I love. And all of a sudden this happens. That's what keeps me going right there.
Yeah. Get around where great people are and great ideas come up. So
that's right.
And this is, you've had a few of them. So thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. All the things that you do for dentistry. We sure appreciate it. Always love seeing your stuff.
So everybody out there, as you know, if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. If you think you might be a remarkable dentist with a remarkable story, write to me at fredjoyal@gmail.com. Let me know, and we'll see if we can get you into the schedule. In the meantime, keep on becoming remarkable.